We're gonna,
I think we have quorum.
yeah, we got 5, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order.
It's fascinating.
It's Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, and it is 5 o'clock. This meeting is held in person by interactive conference technology. The meeting will also be recorded on Zoom. As a reminder, per sunshine law, AC members appearing remotely must keep their cameras on and announce anyone who is with them, except for minors in their location. Okay, we'll do roll call. Mahealani,
Here.
Richard,
Yep,
Ton,
here.
Brad, not here. Oh, sorry, Robert's not here. Brad is absent and I'm here. God, I'm messing that up, you guys. Both B's and R's, I guess. I don't know what it is. Okay. From the planning department, we have Miriam and Jessica. Please make sure your cell phones are turned off and on silent mode. If there's anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the sign up form and give it to our staff. Zoom testifiers can send a message in the chat to the Zoom host indicating which item they wish to testify on. We ask that everyone please state your name before speaking. Is there anyone on Zoom?
I think there's a couple of people.
Okay, great.
Question. Can we as committee members give public testimony,
Hi, Uncle Robert.
I don't know.
Have a seat, Bob.
Miriam, did you hear the question?
Can you give public testimony on?
Yeah, in other words, you're asking for public testimony. Does that include testimony from committee members?
I have no idea.
That
You
would
can
be
speak anytime you
improper
want.
for Robert's rule.
Oh.
That would be improper for Robert's rule.
Yes.
Improper.
Yeah, new members can provide.
Okay.
You can speak anytime you want. I mean, okay, to all of us who are attending here in person, please remember to speak toward the OWL camera microphone so everyone on Zoom can hear. And that's right here.
Staring.
The committee will now consider approving the draft minutes from April 10th, 2024. I'll ask for a motion to approve the April 10th, 2024 meeting minutes as circulated.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion passes and the minutes are approved.
Well,
Oh,
do we need to vote?
oh, sorry. Hey,
All those in favor?
is there any discussion? Sorry. Okay. Figured there wasn't since. Nope, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously.
Do your thing. It's prompting you.
Okay. This time, the committee will now call for statements from the public. As stated in the published agenda, members of the public may provide public testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called to order. If there is anyone here who would like to testify, please fill out the sign-up form on the front table and give it to our staff. Okay, do we have anybody public testimony today? Nope.
Nobody online, nobody here.
Okay. Nobody on Zoom for testimony? Okay, we're going to move on to our first business item, discussion of implementation priorities, discussion and decision-making on the committee's priorities and strategies on potential community action items. Is there anyone who would like to provide testimony on this item who has not already done so? Guess not. No, okay. And we have a motion on the agenda item to begin discussion. Second. Anybody?
I'll second. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay. So So last meeting, we eliminated a couple of items, and I know, we were talking about, maybe you might have some more information on, going ahead with the, on some information for doing action item, 3 and 4. Did you have anything to add to that, or?
What I thought of doing is, doing a PowerPoint presentation. Like for the next meeting.
Robert, can you speak up a little more?
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a PowerPoint that I am preparing now,
Okay,
so I want to submit it to the committee. I think, don't we have to have it, the public review it before we present it? For the, like, you know, for the sunshine law, can we just simply present it for a next meeting, or do I need to get you to review it and approve it before we move on?
I don't think so, no, you can just present it.
Ideally, it would be included as part of the board packet,
Yeah,
but if you can't, it's still possible to present it at the time and then you just include it with the minutes. But ideally, you include it up front with the board packet.
Yeah, so when do we usually,
So we've been trying to post the agenda at least 10 days or so before.
When is the next meeting?
Our next meeting is,
Wednesday,
June 12th.
so it'll be like beginning. But, we can also always amend the meeting packet once you have it ready, and then you have we can PDF the slides, and then we'll just send everybody an updated meeting packet and we'll update them. Yeah, so 6 days before is the kind of.
well, even if he has a summary, right, he can submit a summary of what you're doing. And then that way at the meeting, they can update.
And if there's any changes that happen after, we can
I
always.
think I just sending you a PowerPoint or the committee, or the chairman and you, and have you approve one from there. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't agree with the action committee suggestion personally. I think there's I'm going to provide an alternative. So I don't know whether that's something that, whether we have to be guided by the action committee requirements. You know, there's some management suggestions they provided, but I think they're all wrong on that one.
yeah,
It's nothing offensive, it's simply, but I think it's a wrong approach.
right, but the overall topic's the same, isn't it?
It is
Yes,
exactly,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
basically how we skin the cat and.
Yeah, That's perfect,
That's
yeah.
I mean, cat lovers, sorry about that. But, you know, what I'm doing really is, I'm also a member of MACSAC. You know, that CZM group.
And can you, just for everybody with that,
MACSAC is part of coastal zone management. It's called Marine Advocate Group. And we have monthly meetings. And what we really did, our role is to look at the state ocean recreational management plan. And the state plan, and we commented on that and provided input to the agencies as a guidance. There are 3 major topics. One is managed retreat, which is really about homes and sea level rise. The second thing was land-based pollution, which is really a big threat. And this is where I think I'm going to focus my attention on. Because this is where you have issues with agencies working in silos, and there's issues with nothing like Juliana. It's always a purple, whether it's a state or a county, we get it all the time. And the third thing is DARS, Holodomor 30x30, which we debunked. Yeah, that's always all wrong. And I think the state agency backed off, thinking it was the wrong approach. So what I'm trying to do as a member of MACSAC from East Hawaii, a member of this committee with the guidance from the action committee, try to weave those 2 things together. So at least what's here will be in parallel with what the state is trying to do. So, but most importantly, I think is maybe it's a means for us to get out of the silos. Yeah, we like to work in silos. It's always not my, you all remember, it's not my kuleana. I don't do that.
Mhm.
right,
You know, big landslide, Hakalau Point, I call everybody. It's not my kuleana. We don't read that stuff. So what's the point? I think again, it's just the way this island is organized. It's, you know, the island perspective, it cuts from the mountain, and that's the perspective. But again, from the Western perception of governments,
Hmm.
it really is very circular. And here's the dilemma. So maybe this action can be along with max that we can break that hopefully, or at least get some people talking, because we all have a common problem. You know, so I think this is kind of what I want to do. Hopefully, so we have like 5 or 6 slides. Just to see where I'm going, so at least you understand or see where I'm going to get either your concurrence or your, I'm sure, and some of the input will be appreciated. So this is kind of, because I said on both sides, I want to play that role that I can cross both boundaries.
Yeah. Sounds great. Looking forward to it. And any other comments on community action 3 and 4 together? I think you were, or a couple of you that were looking at that. If
I don't have anything, I don't have that document.
this one-
It's not clear to me, can we suggest agenda items for the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, well,
That's at number 5.
Yeah, we'll be coming to that.
all right,
I guess I'd like to bring up, Han sort of gave me a little boot in the rear last week about agriculture, so I'm gonna see if we can, do something there. I was looking at the items that are listed. There's number 5, which is educating landowners about ag programs. Number 46 was strengthening ag cooperatives, marketing, farm to school, eradicate invasive species. These are pretty broad subjects. Number 50 was training programs. They're all great things, but I still have my outlook is, and I don't know that there was anywhere in there that talked about how the tax code affects agriculture and zoning. And that's my big issue.
We did a search on tax, but I don't think it was in there, but we can do another.
Yeah, I didn't see anything, but if you find something, that'd be great to know.
David, there's a report from 2018, which was a meeting of the real property tax working group and the ag working group on recommendations around property taxes relating to ag.
Mhm.
And, last summer, we implemented most of them.
All right.
It'll take effect in this coming September, but, that, I don't think there's anything specific about taxes in the CDP, but that other document talks about the recommendations.
Yeah, that would be wonderful to get my hands on that.
Yeah, I can share it. I have a files, to share with the group, but we've implemented most of it except for the short-term vacation.
So, yeah, I'm really interested to see what they've got there. There's one of the other issues is, anyone can buy a farm parcel, build a house on it, but there's no requirements to actually do agriculture. Most states that are protecting their agricultural land have some kind of monetary, requirements that you must produce a certain amount of goods, a certain amount of money through your agriculture to be able to build a house on that property. So they'll have to, in some cases, establish the farm first, prove that they're gonna farm, and then they can build it. I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but that's how some people have done it. But right now, these lots like up in Hāmākua, Papaloa and Laupahoehoe, the whole island, they're just, I mean, I'm a retiree, but I decided to farm.
Right.
There's a lot of retirees that are just looking for a place to build a trophy home. And, that land's never gonna be farmed again. So we're not preserving farmland, we're giving it away. So if someone would like to, I'd be more than happy to be on a, permitted interaction group if anyone else is interested in doing that and looking into some of those things. It sounds like we have a good place to start, reviewing what they've.
Along the same line, I mean, we have a castle in Ninole for $8 million, supposed to be a sod farm. I don't ever seen a sod farm. You know, so here's the dilemma. How do we address the issue? Is it really a issue about permitting or policing?
Both.
You know, and that's where the issue comes in, you know, where it all stops after you shake the hand of the permanent hand and you're good to go. Nobody polices after that.
Yeah, there is, I think there is a requirement, if you have dedicated farmland, there is a requirement, I think, that you produce $2,000, which, I mean, this does nothing. So before I say too much, I'd like to see what's on the existing plan, but if anybody else is interested,
David, it seems that, I mean, it is the reality that if somebody wants to build a home on that land, they first have to farm it.
not in Hawaii, but in some states. that's
No, no, I'm
required.
saying, but you're saying that that ought to be a requirement, right?
It could be, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And seems very reasonable to me.
right. I mean, otherwise you're not, the title of it being agricultural land has no meaning at all. It has nothing to do with preserving it. It's just a label you give it, and there's a little section in the tax code that breaks it down a little differently. And that's another issue, is the trying to determine which, I mean, Pawilo Malka, they have a community organization. They have a calculator spreadsheet. You can sort of plug things in, and it'll kind of guide you through it, but I mean, it is very difficult to determine which is the best route to go for a farmer. There's like 6 different routes, and they're all convoluted, and you have to do massive calculations, and so,
Can I? put this in there?
yeah, please do, yes,
So,
please.
So a couple of things, one of the reasons that it was difficult to make that calculation is because if you went with the ag dedication, you lost the 3% cap on your home.
Right,
Which is one of the benefits of the homeowner class, is that your price can only go up, the assessed value that they tax you on can only go up to 3% a year. So we've added that back in, if you're legitimate in farming, to protect the housing for farmers and putting that 3% cap on those structures. At the same time, in order to qualify, it used to be you had to have $2,000.
Right.
Now you have to have a farm plan, or you have to have an organic certification or a National Soil Conservation Service agreement. You have to have some documentation that you're legitimately farming in order to get those tax benefits. And the idea was,
well, we had to do a farm plan in
Yeah.
2010, yeah,
yes, you must have, you must have probably done the dedicated. There was this other class, the non-dedicated,
Right.
that didn't require any of
right,
that.
right.
And that's where the loophole was. That's where we had so many people creating these fake farms. So that loophole has been closed. now. So you can't get that ag benefit anymore, that tax reduction. If
Are there
you're
any
not-
requirements that someone comes back out, just like a tax assessor comes out, to
There's-
see if you've made,
Certify any five
Uh.
you're doing, so you're actually fine.
So what's the situation with the non-dedicated ag use?
It's gone, we're sunsetting. We're taking it up. Yeah, so you can dedicate for 10 years, which is probably what you did, or you can dedicate for 3 years, which gives you the same tax benefit the non-dedicated ag did, but you have to provide this documentation that you're actually. And then we created this other community food sustainability one where you can get a tax benefit for the portion of your property where you're producing food, but you have to show that you're producing food. And you can't use that for pasture or anything like that. It has to be for food.
Yeah, you have to produce product.
You have to produce a product, and you can donate it, like you can give it to the food basket, you don't have to sell it, but you're
Sure.
producing food in some way, you can demonstrate it. But to your other point about requirements for certain activities on agricultural lands, one of the issues that we have in this county is that you have that state underlying use of ag, and then the zoning lines on top of it. We're mostly ag, including under all the plantation caps, HPP, orchid land, PO. And so when we talk about restricting ag lands, we have to accommodate for all those non-conforming uses that are happening in these other areas. So one of the things that I've been working on with some of my colleagues at the state is to pull all those little smaller lots out that are not really ag anymore and call them rural.
Right.
They can still take advantage of any of the ag benefits, they wanna do farming on those lots. Then we have a more pure ag base to deal with, where we could implement the kind of plan like that. Now we couldn't, because we have so many, we have 10,000 square foot lots that are state land.
Right.
So that's kind of phase two, is to pull out
Get rid of that overlap.
what is really rural from the ag land use. So that we could better regulate the ag.
And then the other thing is, so you come, you build the house on a 20-acre ag lot. Typically, they already have a fence around them to hold cattle. You can get your neighbor to bring over a cow, maybe two, maybe three. And all of a sudden, it completely changes your tax rate
Mhm.
from, I think it's, I don't know how to say it.
So was that close? Cause that was in the
That's
non-dedicated.
Yeah, that was part of the
Pasture
non-dedicated
orchard.
program, so you can't do that.
Okay,
You have to show that you are, because the ag programs is the commercial operation, that is clearly not a corporate.
but what about the rate? The rate for cattle is like $400 and for my coffee orchard, it's $4,000 an
Right,
acre.
right, and that is based on the usage, right? So
Right.
the ag property values are based on the usage.
Right,
So we wouldn't call that now an agricultural usage, because it's not tied to a commercial farm.
Oh, okay.
And so their rate would be assessed on the market rate, as you know, and so that's part of this, right, is to reduce the level of speculation. I've got 40 acres of prime real estate, so right next to my house, that is fenced with a few cows on it, that has been like that for 20 years.
right,
And that guy's just paying, and I have nothing against that guy, I prefer to live it.
Right,
But
right.
he's paying $200 a year to just sit on that and
Right.
land it. And so closing that loophole, that was one of the incentives.
What about, the other issue, just in terms of, food, is that, we should be encouraging, just even non-commercial, like, people growing stuff to eat and share.
Yeah.
I mean, that is as valid, an agricultural
That's why
type
we
thing. Yeah,
created that community food sustainability program. So if you're using a third of your property
Yeah.
to create food that you're sharing, then you can get a tax break on that portion of your property, because we do think that's about, that's kind of what a non-dedicated ag was supposed to be about.
yeah.
So we pulled that part out of it. But,
And that's
yeah,
phasing in when? I mean,
September is when people have to start making a decision for the next tax year, if they're gonna go into the 3-year short-term dedicated or the food sustainability or into the 10-year dedicated.
and so were those rates looked at for different, so cattle versus, tree
Yeah, I
farm
think
versus,
that would bear looking into. It's
Right.
something that we talked about as we, the rates are not in the code itself, it's a rule in the tax department, and so the rates were set based on the revenue per acre that a typical crop would get, right? And that may not be the best way to do the calculation, because that incentivizes, right? It certainly
Right.
incentivizes pasture,
Right.
which, is not necessarily the best use, but.
well, I guess I was assuming traditionally cattle has been a big industry in Hawaii, so maybe that was why it was $400 and other things were.
So that, I think that's certainly something that should be looked at, but people are smarter than me.
Did you get much pushback on this proposal? Do you
It was very-
expect
it was pretty well
pushback
supported.
when it is implemented in
I have a
September?
feeling that the few folks that have been taking advantage of the non-dedicated program must be a little peeved, but at the same time, I don't think you could effectively argue that I deserve to have a commercial agricultural rate when I'm not doing any commercial agriculture. Just don't know how you make that argument.
Agreed.
There is some farmland next to us that are owned by farmers. Put a fence and put 2 cows in it, but called green acres. You said, remember, green acres that show.
And that's the kind of, they should at least pay their fair share if they're
Yeah.
not contributing.
Exactly.
Right, so do you think this, existing change that's been made is gonna be, efficient at protecting farmland?
I think it's a piece of the puzzle. Like I said,
Yeah.
there's different components. I think the next really big important one is that conversion of rural, so we can better protect that.
Right. So that's happening at the state.
Yeah, there was a bill actually that almost made it through that would have allowed us to do that, but, you know, the land use commission is involved at the state level, they don't necessarily want to give up the reins on that, but. At the minimum, they were willing to agree to let the counties do it without any amendments from them, they just have to yes or no vote on it. But it ended up dying. So many things that just,
Yeah, because the rules, has always been this little. Just,
they're a non-conforming use, if
Right.
you would.
right,
And the other piece of that, not to take up too much of your time here, is that on rural, you can build accessory dwelling units. On ag, there are additional farm lots that have to be used for people related to farm activity. So it's a way to increase our inventory of housing to allowing people to use on the rural properties.
Yeah, short-term vacation rentals on rural is, is fine, but,
No,
oh,
but
No.
accessory dwelling units for like your mother-in-law and your kids, something like that is permissible.
see.
On rural, it's not on ag. But on ag, they're permitted as additional farm dwellings, and there's restrictions about how they can be used.
I see,
Yeah.
so,
If your kids work on the farm, then they can live in the addition.
yeah.
So is there, some way to easily read and understand the relationship between the state and the county overlap, and if I want to educate myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think we sort of looked about that in the general plan, but, it's fairly straightforward from the standpoint that, the state only has, I think, 5 land use classes: urban expansion, conservation, rural, and ag. Is that right, Brad? Am I remembering correctly? I think it's only 5. There's many more types of zoning.
Yeah.
But the state land use is pretty,
So if there's an overlap, does one have priority over the other?
zoning should align with the state land use.
Well, my offer still stands if someone would like to. I guess I'll just leave it on the table. If somebody thinks about it and wants to be on a committee for that, that'd be great. Anybody else, thoughts on priorities?
Is this the point where I make a suggestion?
For the next meeting,
Okay.
no, not yet. We're still talking about,
Right, the priorities for that.
priorities for next year.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, is priorities for next year.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay. Our priorities, from my perspective for next year, is actually focuses on 2 things. One is on housing. And the other one is on education. And from housing, I mean, there's a few things in the works, and maybe Heather can comment about it, but. We've got 2 subdivisions in Hāmākua that have been permitted for 40 new homes. And nothing's happening yet. Now, Heather told me the other day that she thought Plantation Properties, who owns these 2 subdivisions, is gonna sell them to Hawaiian Homelands. Now, I think, is Hawaiian Homelands gonna buy both of those?
The plan.
Now, is it in the works,
Yes,
or,
yeah, I spoke to the guy, actually just last week.
so that means that it's gonna be reserved then for people who are part Hawaiian? Okay, and the other thing is, we've got a community college campus there that's doing absolutely nothing. And yet we need to start training people from the community in a variety of skill sets. Because when I drive around Hāmākua, the number of multifamily households I see, it's incredible. And it's because people aren't making a decent income and there's no housing. And if that doesn't change, that Hāmākua is gonna die. So I think I'd like to have that, the two priorities from my perspective are education and housing.
So what is going on with the community college there?
Nothing. They just completed a whole culinary arts facility. They don't have a director right now. It's not staffed.
Okay, so it's
Right.
there, but
I mean, I think we ought to get somebody from the community college to come to a meeting like this and make a presentation.
yeah, that'd be great.
And I'll take it upon myself to get somebody if you want me to.
If you wanna look into that.
Sure, I'm glad to do that. And the other thing is I mentioned job creation. And look, we have so many storefronts on Mamani Street that are empty. And it's sort of like a rotating business. Somebody comes in there and establishes a business for a while and then they go out of business. And I'm saying, and I've said this to Heather, that those buildings ought to be used as a remote satellite for county offices. I mean, they've got a facility down by the library. It's a state building, but the county's got nothing going on.
Well, that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, one of the things I should mention, that did pass at this legislature was the ability to repurpose some of those commercial spaces and, for example, convert them into housing. That wasn't something we could do easily before, but that's one of the things that kind of pertains to this. I would also recommend, and I can share this with you folks. You guys remember Dennis Fleming, I think we spoke to him before, but he worked with some others to do a market analysis for the types of economies, jobs that we were best positioned to develop. And so agriculture, particularly like the boutique egg, Hawaii grown products is one. Technology and education is another big potential growth area for us. So I think that's definitely worth focusing on. Community college is the right place.
Because right now, most of the, I won't say, I'm gonna guess, the majority of the people who are employed and they live in Hāmākua, they're commuting down to the resorts to do a job. And that's just plain nuts.
One of the things we've been talking about is like a micro credentialing program where you're not, like, we need employees in the county too, particularly wastewater employees, if you know anybody. And so like being able to train for the initial skill sets to enter into that workforce. If you don't need a full on degree, but if we could offer a micro credential to the community college, that could be a way to.
And offer it to the local people and then the county hires them.
Yep.
And they work in Hāmākua.
That would be ideal.
Well, that's something we ought to be pursuing.
Yeah, we really think. Need help.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to hearing from someone from the
Okay,
community college.
I'll do that.
That Richard's impression is somewhat my impression also in regards to the commercial viability of Hāmākua. I'd like to hear your impression about that. Do you feel like Hāmākua, you've talked to many of the shop owners in Hāmākua, do you feel like Hāmākua is commercially very fragile?
I do, yeah, I do. And I think, it's never fully recovered from COVID.
Yeah.
And as Richard is saying, a lot of it's become more of a bedroom community. So the workforce is going out during the day and then staying in there. So I think, we have to consider ways to encourage access to and interest in visiting the downtown. And I do think, some sort of hiking, biking corridor between the farmer's market and the downtown, maybe redesigning that street, Main Street, to be a more walkable, chairs and tables out on the street kind of thing might be.
Yeah, but that's still tourism.
It is still tourism
Yeah.
and that particular approach, yes, but then supporting the community college is another way to expand the education technology sector, and they have, the robotics lab in
Well,
there, they have.
Look, there's a lot of people on this island now, they'd like to see a little less tourism.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying. I guess maybe I'm saying we maybe need to discourage it a little. But,
Yeah, I think it's a fine balance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I hate to say that
Yeah.
because I.
yeah, but we aren't striking a balance, it's just
We are.
wide open.
We are
What,
all eggs in one basket.
that's right.
Have too many incidences where that has not worked out well for us to continue to do it, but I think it's wrong to think it won't ever be, it'll be gone completely. So
I mean, the medical clinic can't even hire doctors because the doctors are saying, well, I'd like to come here and practice, but where do I live?
So does, just speaking about viability for Hōnākā and things commercially, does the county do, car counts? Road department? No,
No, well, we do in certain locations.
I was just wondering if there was any,
YPO is a place we've done accounts in the past.
well, that'd be a good indicator. It'd be interesting if there was some little history and anything current.
In your discussions with the shop owners of Hōnākā, do you have the impression that there's any resistance to promoting tourism there?
No, but I think, it's worth noting the concerns from the surrounding areas, particularly the YPO situation, which continues to be an issue, right? I mean, right now it's moderated to some level because of emergency order, but
Yeah.
at some point that'll be gone, so we
Yeah.
need to have a better management plan.
Do you have an impression of what's going to happen when the emergency order is finished?
We were working on something and the legislature didn't pass it.
Did it die?
Yeah, I did. And the only thing I've heard is that they didn't have time to schedule it, which is not a very good reason to the bill. But we had the support of DLNR and transportation to allow us to have an instructed, put a management plan for it. But we're meeting again, Brad are on the steering committee will meet again shortly. Retool ourselves. We still have about 2 years.
I'd like to say something. My name is Lorraine Chin, and I volunteered to be the president for Hilo Downtown Improvement Association. And let me kind of tell you, share with you, because we were just in the Hāmākua this past weekend, and we started walking to different stores. And again, it's very fragile, as you had mentioned. And I could see, I myself, like, how can these people have these shops and survive? So my understanding is that Hōnākā has become sort of like a scenic place to visit because of like feel and understand because of the construction needed for the white people to go down. That probably one of the reasons why that those shops there don't have the revenues that they did in the past. And even for downtown Hilo, we rely a lot on the ships come in and different tourists come in, and we deal with homeless, we deal with security, we deal with safety. Thank heavens, we finally, after all these years, got new streets and new curbs. And I remember years ago when I used to be with the Downtown Improvement Association, we had looked at creating sort of like a corridor with different areas from the airport to Hilo, different destinations. But it also, happened around tourism. So in many ways is that if you got Hōnākā, Malama Market, of course, if you've got people that are living in that area, will go to Malama Market. But how do you encourage or become an incentive to have people shop? Well, we have friends that have a shop in Marcella in Hāmākua. And we walked in and you have this beautiful shop. I mean, you've seen Hāmākua, I think, change over the past few years. Even after the pandemic, downtown is coming alive. People are investing in their shops. We see movement, we see things happening. And we work well with Neil Azevedo, who is the chief for taking care of downtown and the cleanliness. But how do you, and I recognize it, how do you create some kind of motivation or incentive, education, shops are buying in, more housing? I was surprised to hear that Hawaiian Homes is purchasing lands out here, but I worked with Hawaiian Homes in the past, but how long does it take for any kind of homes to really become a reality? Time, infrastructure, funding, with all the different lands that Hawaiian Homelands has. So that's a surprise to myself. I'm really not sure how that will work out there at the ground. And it's serious when you talk about housing. And then we talk about affordable housing. Is there anybody here that believes there's affordable housing in Hawaii? It's something that I think we all have to face, but it becomes.
Well, the reality is we need to increase the standard of living of the
That's
people who live here.
You know, or we could figure out something maybe like, you know, I mean, if somebody, that's why the homeless, I mean, you see the homeless down there and you think, you know, the cost of living, you know, they're up against the highest cost of living and they're paying a bunch of taxes and they can't get a mortgage or anything, they can't get a house, so, you know, you gotta maybe try to figure out something where the guy's working full-time, I mean, it's worth, you can get some kind of house or something, right? He's doing his 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week or something, you think, you know, if the people were here, people that are here, it's not like you're moving them in from the mainland, you know, but the people that are here, if they're gonna work, they should at least be able to put a roof over their head. That's why they're giving up. I mean, you got crazy and lazy when you talk about everybody down there sitting in one area, but still, you know, if they had more, if they knew, if they worked their 8 hours or whatever, they were gonna have a nice house and be comfortable and safe, I think more of them would stand up.
Yeah, we did an outreach today and a whole group of us downtown visiting the homeless because we usually stop by and give them food, you know, find out if they need help, and there's different things that are happening. And right now we're gonna be, the county is partnering with the Salvation Army. And in order to move any homeless, and I'm sure there's homeless.
Well, we have, I have homeless people living on my street.
Yeah, so we're working, partnering with the Salvation Army and something that was passed through the county. And they're providing 1.8 million to create sort of like a shelter, and then we'll have about 25 beds. In order for any kind of enforcement to happen with a safe area, you have to have a bed to move them. And so that's happening right now in Hilo. They talk about Hāmākua homes where they're have different shelters, but all of this is temporary. And I do know because I work with Nancy Cabral, and she deals with many rental units. She said as soon as there are affordable housing that comes services, many of these individuals don't know how to apply. So many of these homes are going to people off this site. So that's another concern that we discussed. How do we get our people to move into this affordable home? We need somebody to help them to say, let me help you apply for these different affordable homes and help them. This isn't that.
Well, when we talk about affordable housing here, and people just laugh at us.
Yeah.
And by the way, 20 of those lots, the developer agreed that he would price the lots below market value. And people are saying, well, what's below market value?
Too high. It's too high.
No, they don't have, they're not making a decent living.
Yeah, they just have to run it on a wheel.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's why we need a community college campus. And we need to train people for higher paying jobs.
Yeah.
I belong to a local Lions Club in Hāmākua. And almost all the people that attend our meetings, they work down in the resorts.
So let's just, great conversation, but I'd like to get back to
Sorry,
the
Dave.
priorities for the year. No, that's fine. I mean, it's all part of the priorities and everything. It all fits in. It's just trying to get us, the committee ourselves, focused on. I guess the thing is, are we, basically, if we have fire escape routes, mud lane, we have Waipani, is that it? What is the one that's the,
Waipanas.
is that that's,
YPO.
yes, that's, you have that committee still, right?
Yes.
Yes, and um,
There's two out of YPO though. Is the mayor still doing his, which is the short term?
And I don't think so.
Okay,
I haven't heard boo about it.
okay. And then the
So
one
I
that
think we're just gonna absorb that.
we're a part of, well, it was most of our
Use us
people
anyway, yeah.
anyway.
well, I'm just trying to
Um,
think what
long term.
actual committees we have, and, okay, because we have to consider, I mean, how many committees can we have, at any one time with 6 members? So, I mean, potentially we could have another committee with you, but we're gonna find out about that more at the
Cool.
next
So-
meeting.
And then your ag.
I'm interested in that, and I think you mentioned last time that you are the one that you were really interested in was,
Fire,
fire,
fire prepared.
fire preparedness and trails. I mean, I'm interested in the. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's the same thing. We just somehow we have to try to narrow it down, and I mean, I'm even been thinking about, one of our things we're supposed to do is suggest, community improvement projects for the budget every year for the county. And so to do that, we have to be prepared to have those ready by fall, right? For the budget committee process.
Well,
Yeah,
let me comment about that, David.
Let me just finish up.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're in the budget process right now, so if there are CIPs that you would like to see in for this year, this is the time to get them to me.
Yeah.
We can
Well, I'm
still make
thinking,
amendments to
I'm
the-
thinking next year is
For
probably
next
more
year, yeah, I
realistic.
would say by November at the
November.
latest.
So that's something to think about, what items are in our action,
We also have that GP pending there.
right?
When the new draft gets
Well,
released.
David, one of the things is we have approval from the residents on Lehua Street. It's gone before the county to put speed humps on Lehua.
Mhm.
And damn it, that happened months ago. And yet I read in the paper that they're gonna do some paving in Waimea. I mean, what's the deal? Why
Could be
isn't it
state
happening?
accounting.
I mean,
Could be
they
state
bought a paving machine up at the top of Lehua, and I thought, oh, they're gonna start the speed humps.
Wrong way.
And they were just storing the paving machine there.
Yeah, so, I mean, are we at our capacity for committees? I mean, we need to finish the ones we have? I mean,
I don't think so.
I don't either, but I just trying to get things rolling here.
I'd like to propose a committee to try to understand the apparent inconsistency with the county code duties and responsibility of the action committee. Number 5, to receive briefings as requested from the planning department on pending and approved permit applications involving property located within the planning area and on other issues related to the CDP. And the apparent inability of the planning department to, for instance, forward to the chair a link to any electronic submissions for applications
Public
or
notices.
applications for property yeah, permit applications. I'd like to see a permitted interaction group study that issue.
Yeah, I think it's a even broader, a little bit broader issue. I think we brought up, last time that it's all,
For all.
with all the different departments when we have questions or, we've got some response, we've got presentations from different departments, but yeah, I think that's a important subject is what's the process? Maybe that's what we need, a defined process of how to access the different departments and get, the responses.
Well, it's my understanding that the CDP members should not be contacting the county departments. We should be making those requests through your department, isn't that right?
That, I think both are technically, that historically have been done. Yeah, so there's not a clear distinction on what.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with
Okay.
a member contacting the department to try to get access information that we're working on,
Okay,
go straight to the source.
I mean, as long as I know I can do that, I'm gonna do something about the freedoms.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do something about the community college.
yeah,
And I guess I would assume that the distinction would be also, if you're going about and doing that, it would be something that is under like, something that. Not solely just to go rogue and use the AC's name, as your kind of validation, but it's something that the collective has is interested in doing, and you have been. Dedicated, the appointed person to do that.
Yeah, you can't throw your weight around just because you're.
I'm willing to,
Yeah,
I'm
so much
willing to
power.
I'm willing to talk to various departments and see if they're willing, but then it seems to me then, I ought to bring that response back to this committee
sure.
to see if they want to hear what these people have to say,
Mhm. Yeah, perfect.
okay?
I think my question to Tom, just to continue on with this permitted interaction group that you're proposing, maybe do you have a proposed goal or,
Well, the goal would be to have the planning department, forward to the chair of the committee, any electronic submissions or, submissions, applications for, permit applications in Hāmākua, such that he would be able to look at that permit application and, determine whether it would be something that should be brought before this committee.
I guess I didn't mean goal in such, I understand that, but I mean, maybe more in what would the report look like that the PIG would bring back to the committee? You know, what?
That the committee would request from the planning department that a link to any application for permit be forwarded to the chair of the committee.
Can I add to that? Or have a dedicated person, the county make a position for a dedicated person to do this for all the ACs. So that's why it's beneficial for the whole island. They get one more person to help support them. Yeah, and all the ACs can see that because they're not abiding, like right now, from what you announced at our Coelho meeting, they're not meeting that requirement that they had put in, set forth for themselves. And, when Dave and I asked, they have 3 people for the whole island.
Yeah.
So they increased, the county increased, but not positions and not funding. So if we could help them get the support that they need and I'd like to see a dedicated person in that position. So that, whether it be part-time, 3/4 time, whatever it entails, but so that way, that information can get to all the ACs, will be happy, all the ACs will be happy, and the county is actually holding true to what they set forth for themselves. I mean,
Really, the only difference is I think what it says is it says that we have to request it to get it. Or we're saying we don't feel like we should have to
Like how we
request.
did for Old Mill,
Is
like
that,
how we did for Old Mill, the AC requested that application, so we provided a redacted version of that.
Could I make a suggestion to your proposal, one, which would be that we've been having some conversations at the council level about how to better resource, support, make the ACs more effective. Would you be willing to consider like doing some research on best practices in some other places with like community-led groups and suggest some improvements to the AC model that would include sufficient resources for the staffing, but also maybe what your Juliana is could be refined a little bit to expand the impact, basically, of the ACs. It's something that we've been talking about in terms of how do we make the CDP come more alive through the AAC action, but I think there needs to be some time spent looking at the model itself. So the report would be some suggestions on code amendments around the structure and the responsibilities of the ACs.
Right,
You know, along those lines, you know, Nancy Pasicchio, she was involved, and I think she had maybe contacted you a few months ago about the effort through the state legislature to change does Oahu City and County have the neighborhood boards? And they're very active, but they don't have to operate under the constraints of the sunshine law. So they're a lot more flexible. And so she was interested and had, you know, worked to get a bill passed that just changed the definition that would allow the ACs to operate on either the name or something like that. And that would be one, you know, one step, but also, like you said, the sort of looking at the role of the ACs, because I remember when I was at planning and, you know, this whole thing was new, the CDPs, there was hesitation to put that regulatory review on the ACs because of the timing of a lot of the, you know, some of those things have certain actions have time requirements, and you know, if we're meeting once a month, it may not always be appropriate, but there are certain things that would, you know, that would come up in the community that, you know, input would be wise, and that's like with the neighborhood boards, you know, people go before the neighborhood boards and present, you know, projects like they did, you know, the Hāmākua one. But that was just more of a courtesy rather than sort of a, you know, a working process that is, you know, sort of institutionalized. So anyway,
There's former colleague Heather Bartley used to be in touch with her at all. She did like her doctoral thesis on community action groups, so she'd be a good person to talk to. And then Councilmember Kirkwood's, of course, has been involved in all the reactivate Puna stuff, which is outside the AC structure, but it's been pretty effective. So she might be somebody I'm bringing.
Oh, that Ash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miriam, could I ask a question? Is it the case that when a permit application is presented to planning, an electronic copy is made?
it is.
And-
I mean, yeah.
And therefore, it should be a very simple thing to have that forwarded
It
to
could
the,
easily be a workflow type thing where, you know, if it's in a certain district, it just automatically goes to some place where you can access it and then just, you know,
right,
right? I mean, computer, this technology.
so
Yeah,
it's,
so be-
shouldn't be a time-consuming or complicated thing to have that forwarded to the chair of the committee, should it?
I think okay, I don't wanna take away from what, like this whole greater picture of the ACs, like I love that, I agree with it, and I support it. And I think what you're like to focus in on what you mentioned with the public notices. I think an opportunity could be to look at the sections of code that discuss the public notices for the subdivision and consolidations and the variances of all those administrative and planning division type of permitting. Because they are being posted publicly technically as required by code. But maybe, Tom, I feel like maybe the path that you might be going more down is actually a purpose of this PIG could be to propose an amendment to that current written rule to include more current, up-to-date methods of posting, right? So it's not just the newspapers that are now just in the libraries, or very few people get them to their homes, as it was so relevant back when code was written. Now is to include language about electronic posting. So that there's a listserv that the people can just sign up for, just like they do for our committees, just as they do for planning commission, that they can get these notices that way. And so maybe that's actually more the path than necessarily adding another, I mean, it's in a way it does add it to, but it's looking at it a more systemic way instead of just specifically for the action committees, because if the action committees are having trouble getting access to this, then the general public probably is as well. So maybe it's to look that route, and that could be something that the PIG works with, you know, looking how different language options corporate council has offered to help with language, with drafting, things like that, and the planning center can definitely also help with research. Maybe that's an avenue to consider as well, to kind of not make this a specific something that that's in code. And
So it's a
and
programming
and carries
issue
forward.
instead of a more personnel thing.
And yes.
And there might
like,
be
it
better
would- it
use
would
of
still
having-
Require a person in
Right.
planning, maybe not in community planning, but a person in planning, maybe of that section or division. To be blasting and updating that, just like we are all updating our own respective committees, they would be posting in that. And so,
Yeah, during the intake,
Mhm.
during the intake, there
During the
would be some automatic type thing, it's gonna go to this district and people will.
well, just like how they post send things to the newspaper to post, they would send something just and send to their email listserv as well. And maybe it's just adding in a few words to that code, you know, and pushing it forward.
That's, I think, kind of what I'm getting at, that perhaps a permitted interaction group could design that way of informing the chair of
Really, your intent is what, to be able to review certain things, is it?
I think-
Subdivisions or rezones, special permits, you know, there's a
Yeah.
whole range of.
Well, I guess we have to define which ones,
Yeah.
but there's certainly several of them I'm sure we'd be interested in seeing as they come up.
Yeah.
So, you know, my impression is that we have probably, what, 6 now, maybe 7 possible committees that we're looking at. I think each of us has things that we're particularly interested in. And it seems to me like to try to pick out 1 or 2 or even 3. I'm not sure that that's the best design for how we should approach what we're going to be doing over the next year. It almost seems to me like we kind of at each meeting, we would be able to make suggestions about what what a potential permitted interaction group or whatever kind of committee might be appropriate to study any particular problem. So I don't know, my sense is that we're probably not going to reach any kind of consensus about, this is
Yeah.
what we're gonna do this year.
Right. We can certainly have a list to choose from.
Yeah,
As, you know, hopefully some of these go by the wayside, then we've got a list ready to go when someone feels.
But I think the idea that we commit ourselves
Yeah.
in some sense or another, which is kind of what this was, an effort to define some kind of commitment, rather than sort of drifting forward. And so I think the basic idea is great. Let's start looking at problems and looking for solutions, or looking for at least some way of interacting with those problems, that's constructive. And, but I think there's going to be a number of different problem areas that we'll end up looking at.
Well, I think, Don, if there's a whole host of areas that we need to look at, then I think the committee ought to decide what's priority.
Can I say something?
And just pick two or three.
From what I'm seeing, so there's a blessing and the curse of the action committees as of right now, is that there's no set strategy or path that you guys have to take in order to accomplish whatever it is you're set to accomplish. And so what I'm seeing from this specific action committee is that a lot of the members are kind of have their individual projects already, is what it's sounding like. So we have the white people focus, we have, Uncle Bobby with MaxAC, we have Mr. Beidelman with, housing and education and economy, and with the priority I'm seeing right now is, that community college, and you bringing in that presentation and seeing what else we could do. David, I see you kind of holding steady with CIP, keeping in mind that GP is coming around the corner, and we have some research to do with the ag taxes,
Right.
So there's nothing quite ready to decide, but that in itself is kind of already down your alley. And Ton with fire trails, and now this public notices.
General plan,
Right. And-
YPO.
And so like we have the GP pig and we have the policy 55, 56.
Yeah, right,
Also, working in the background.
right.
So I think like maybe it's something we can try and see. If it's not working, we can always change paths and strategies, but this is something that you guys can kind of just, without establishing the pig, then we can bring it up and update every meeting now. And you guys can work with planning as need be, reach out to the other agencies. And we can try that strategy, instead of, the initial proposal. The AC just works together on a couple priorities at a time and dives into them deeply. If the workload seems doable for each individual member, then it might be actually even easier to be able to accomplish that, because you'll be able to give the updates, we'll be able to work with you in the background in that way. I don't know, just throwing that.
Yeah, I think, after having done this for 2 meetings, I think that's probably a good solution. We just. You come,
Well, are there permitted interaction groups that we want to form now?
I'm not ready to maybe start one. I think I'd like to see what information I get that's in the information you're gonna get about ag, changing the tax code and stuff, so I can do my homework on that. And then I can bring that up after I review that. And so maybe that's kind of the way we go at it.
Well, I'm gonna get somebody from the community college system to come and make a presentation to us. And I'm concerned about housing. I think I can get somebody to come and make, and then we can sort of go from there.
And I think I did mention maybe even getting someone that can come and talk to us about sort of DHHLs. I mean, there's plans all up and down the coast.
We're reaching out to DHHL to see if they'll come talk to us about those projects. We also have pending conversations with DPW, we reached out to them about the bridges, but they had a community meeting, didn't they, or not?
No, we're going to have that
We're going to have one
on the next one.
next month, the 13th.
Yep.
And so even as we're working on these things, as things come up, these are things that you can throw on the agenda as needed also, and you don't necessarily need to give an update every meeting. A nice little something would be helpful, and if you need to set up, you know, sometimes people work better with deadlines, some people don't, you know, so that's like an option that we can provide also. But, yeah.
Well, but I would have a question about form in the sense that are we going to have on the agenda for each of our subsequent meetings, you know, whatever it says on the agenda for this meeting? I don't have the agenda in front of me, but
We just have a
discussion of
old business.
of committees.
Yeah.
Are we therefore going to have each of the topics that have been suggested on the agenda for each of the meetings? Or are we just gonna have a general, you know, well,
Well, like say, I get some information and I go through it and then I can come to some kind of ideas about what's in there and what I think, and I could say, okay, I want to get it on the agenda. If you have something that you've been working on, and then I'll, you know, a month from now, 2 months from now, you say, yeah, I want to get on the, we could go that route, and then it's up to the individual.
or do you want to just leave it generic, you know? As, again, I can't remember the wording of what the agenda is today, but yeah, right here.
It was
let's see.
basically this.
Discussion of
yeah.
implementation priorities. Should that be on the agenda of each meeting? And with that being there, then we'll have the opportunity to discuss each one of these issues as far as each individual might have an interest in investigating it. Because if it's not on the agenda, we can't talk about it.
Right.
I think
Just,
Hi, my name is Teresa. I'm a relatively new member to this side of the island. I live in Pepacao. If you want, one idea to engage the community more is to be more specific in the agenda about what you're talking about. For example, if you listed, we are going to have a presenter talk about community college in Hāmākua, then people from that community go, oh, I'm really interested in that, and may engage more with you and have more ideas and be willing to help.
Right.
When I see a general thing, I was like, well, I'm not sure how it involves me, but I've never been and I'd like to meet people. But if I knew more specifically like agriculture or education that's interesting to me, I might be more engaged with you.
Absolutely.
And I think you're absolutely spot on.
So do you need to put all 8 of these potential committees on the agenda each meeting?
Only the ones you have an update for, right?
Well, we won't know that though.
Well, I think we have to, that's up to us to communicate internally that I have something worthwhile to say instead of just my things on the agenda and,
Okay,
you know.
so,
Well, I can
Is that-
say in my case, I'm gonna get somebody from the community college system to come here and make a presentation about what's going on with the campus in Hāmākua. Yeah, we've got a big issue with housing. And by the way, that's all changed now because the Hawaiian Homelands is taking over those 40 properties.
That's that subdivision you've been talking about.
Right.
Housing's also gonna come out with a new report next month. That the Office of Housing, about housing statistics and then recommendations for amendments to the housing code. So you might wanna
Yeah,
have them bring that here. I think they're gonna present it to council in June, so maybe at your July meeting, they can come out and do that.
Hawaiian Homelands is making it.
No, this is our Office of Housing.
Oh,
They just got the consultant review of the housing code. they'll have some policy recommendations they wanna socialize with the community.
Yeah, so I think we have 2.5 weeks to, after a meeting to figure out if we want to put something on the next agenda, 2.5 weeks approximately.
I think in practice, planning will, I mean, we'll obviously work with chairs, but I would imagine that defaulting to having it on the agenda would be helpful, because even if there is no update, the community sees that this is something that the committee is working towards, and so you can just say, oh, I wasn't able to make any progress today. And also it puts a little pressure to, oh, I have to work. And my meeting next week and I'm on the agenda. So, and unless you guys specifically reach out to us to not have it on the agenda, I would like for us to default to having these items, except for the PIS, obviously. You're not gonna do reports until you're ready to get the report. But, yes.
Does the page have to be more than 2 or more than 1?
I don't think so. It just becomes a bit of a unnecessary, like logistical thing to go through with sunshine. Because you can have 2 people meeting under sunshine, not need a pig. So to create it just for one person, you would, I mean, you could, but
I've been on several pigs and very strict because it can be simply talking star for 6 years without solutions. So the concern is, do you need a pig to define your goals and a timetable? Or simply, is it an ongoing thing? I wish I would have that, but if you're gonna simply talk, it's not gonna solve solution, so. In a pig, do you define your goals? Yeah, so what do you want at the end? Because my pig I'm thinking about it's not a pig, it's an interest, because I'm gonna bridge the gap between agencies, because the agencies don't talk to each other, whatever. So, is this a pig or is it simply an update? Because it becomes a conversation with specific working groups, a state agency and accounting agencies, and both sides all agree, yeah, they both approve of this approach, like that. This thing here shocked me because you had issues with fishing, or with at least with fisher management issues. And you had opportunity to meet with the small boat fishing community, and they really kind of combined to this, but I think this is a means of reaching out to them instead of asking them to come to a meeting. And this is kind of where I view it, but if it's wrong, then I'll change my tactic. But I thought my perspective is like an update, so at least if somebody asks you a question, you say, okay, oh, I've seen this, or talk to that, or this is the issue, or this is what I'm concerned with. Because the problem with agencies is they tend to agree on one size fits all. Yeah, we're constantly fighting in Hāmākua, people on the west side. Their fishing is totally different from Hāmākua. It's a different strategy. Yeah, so this is where a lot of time we get errors into these issues. So this is something, because it's a Hāmākua and it's in our action committee. So this is my thought of how I can contribute to the cause, but ultimately the message goes to your department. That's really that concern, but at least participants. I think I'm more comfortable talking under blue tarps in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this way then, is support or at least some ideas. So this is kind of what I thought. So, I'm like, what is the latitude of a pig? Can we do this, or does it have to have a?
Just do what you gotta do.
Cool. Okay, that's okay with me too. I don't want to know, I think 2 meetings and we need a product,
Yeah.
so, okay, that's okay with me too.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
have we beat that to death? We good to move on? Everybody happy?
I have one more question.
Okay.
This what about where's the punk proposal is now? With the one, this committee supported that punk proposal for Kauai.
I believe that, the end of May, the committee, the Punk Commission will make their decision, about ranking the different nominations. And then I believe that it will be presented to the mayor, and the mayor will, in what, I believe July, make some kind of
He sends it to
Judgment.
council.
What's that?
He sends it to council.
Oh, he sent it
Yeah.
to council in probably July. or
Yeah, I
something.
believe that's usually when we get it.
Yeah, and so it's coming up fairly close, you know, I had been somewhat pessimistic that it would be, you know, still possible that the county would be able to purchase that. I had thought most likely that it would be a private individual would make that purchase regardless of the fact that it is $8 million. And so I'm actually pretty happy that it, at least that we haven't been notified that someone has bought it. So,
Here's an example of, you know, in this action committee, this 3 and 4 I'm working on. One of the things is the point is to work with Tom. The 2 parcels, sandwiches and estuary. The estuary is the key to what one of the requirements are of connectivity between land practices and water quality and coastal zones. This really has this, you have this extra benefit with this, that sandwiching the estuary because you can protect any kind of runoff.
Yeah.
This is why I wrote that support for that proposal, but it plays
Yeah.
that game. And this is where you can weave these parts together.
yeah, thank you.
What was the property? Sorry.
It's 2 40-acre parcels below the old road, below the scenic route
The wooden bridge.
between Hāmākua and Pepakea here.
It's a little bit north of.
So
where the-
Bobby, you made a presentation to the county about that. How did that go?
We don't know yet. They'll decide, the Punk Commission will
They don't pick
decide
the
at the end of
assholes, I
May,
guess.
how they rank that. There were 10 nominations. And some of them were very substantial, as I think this nomination was. And so it's not, you know, necessarily the case that it will be identified as number 1. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, I think there's a likelihood that it will be ranked highly. In which case, I suppose, then it would be up to the mayor, you know, what his interest would be in.
Well, there's only so much money to go around.
That's right.
The parcels are unique, but I think my point was that the sandwiches at estuary, which is an added value to this purchase.
Yeah,
Normally the county cannot do that, but this is an opportunity. This was my point, and at the same time, unknowingly, is that there's an undercurrent. This way you can connect state and county agencies, creating partnerships, I think.
Yeah. Agreed. And just back to, in regards to those 2 properties that are now for sale for 8.2 million. Yes, they each pay $200 a year in property tax.
Yeah.
Well, we could go into that, but we won't. Okay. I guess we're gonna call that done. And we have agenda items for the next meeting. Is there anything?
Well, are we going to then identify that we want, like, for instance, me, this briefings from the planning department, well, you know, my preference would be that a link be sent to the chair of any permit applications. Do we need to go ahead and make that a suggestion for the next meeting.
I think if you want to send in your suggestion, that would be great and helpful. My plan was to have the team kind of go back and review the minutes and everything and kind of come up with these little blurbs and then run it by you guys to see if it fits appropriately with what you guys were talking about. But if you want to come in and send email in your, how you feel like it should be worded out, we definitely appreciate that, and we can use that.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're going to make
An update, yeah, but I'll send the.
Yeah.
Email and you can put it online. It's gonna be short, but just to give my update where I put this.
I mean, we were gonna ask for this water, guys to come back. Right?
Oh, we were
Are
talking, well, we were talking about that, but I think, wastewater, more information, but that was gonna be related to more housing and stuff, right?
Yeah, I can, that's what mine is, right? And I can reach out both avenues with DEN.
Yeah, and it's because it may be, I don't know what you'd want to necessarily have first. But maybe just see what their availability is. Yeah.
Did
Very
we
good.
want DEN for other, I think we was also to talk to them about the status of their draft. In the wastewater plan that they're working on. But was there other things that we were wanting from DEN? Reach out at the same time?
Well, I have some questions. Because you know how they were stating that this is area 1, this is area 2, he never defined what criteria or who determines the different area and their priorities. The other thing was county pays for some and they don't pay for others. So I wanted to see which ones the county pays for, which I'm thinking one of them is the one in Waikoloa, which I'm gonna ask, why are they paying for that one when there's hotels down there and they can pay for it. County should be paying for communities who can't necessarily afford it, like Hāmākua. That was one of my
Right.
questions.
Good question.
Yeah. My brain was working this time.
Okay, yeah, so we'll circle back and I'll reach out to them, see what they say.
Yeah.
If not in business, yeah, we'll see. Okay.
Okay, so we have some announcements. These are just sort of items that have come up or are going on. Hākālau Stream Bridge Rehabilitation Draft Environmental Assessment has been published. So there's a link there to that. Comments are due by May 23rd. There was also just a brief article in Big Island Video News a few weeks back about that. It's pretty good. And also the environmental review program, let's see. So the second one there, that's just oh, so if you want to know more about the environmental
That's
review
just the
program.
link to sign up.
Okay.
This is the avenue where the public notices come out for these environmental assessments and EISs. So that's just a link that if you want to get that into your email, just sign up and register there. You'll get it every time they publish. I think it's twice a month, based on now.
I have a question about wastewater management. Are they gonna try to, in talking about increasing the capacity of the wastewater plants that currently exist in Hāmākua? I mean, is that coming up for discussion? And I'm gonna tell you right now, if the Hawaiian Homelands is taking over those 40 properties, I wanna suggest that the county go after them to hook up to the sewer and not septic systems.
Right.
I mean, I proposed that when the county approved the first subdivision, and it just went on deaf ears.
I guess the question is whether the plan is up to snuff to do that,
Well, if it's not,
well,
then.
yeah, no, but I'm just saying that's,
Cause we're talking about getting rid of cesspools, for God's sake.
right,
So we'll add that to the list of questions for
Yeah.
DEF.
that's, yeah. So we're working on getting someone to answer some of those questions.
Okay.
And the last one, announcement, the Department of Environmental Management has begun the process to draft an integrated wastewater management plan. A recording of the first round of public meetings can be found, and then there's a link for that. That was a few weeks back,
It
right?
should be similar to what Ramsey came to discuss already,
Yeah.
but just a nice reminder in case you want to share it to anybody that they do have an online version. for review.
Now, is that meeting gonna relate, for example, to it, Hāmākua? Or is this some overall plan?
I believe it's an island-wide.
Okay,
And so my understanding of their process is they did those initial, first round of meetings. And then they've been doing, you know, some that they came to, like our meeting, and some of the other ACs. And then I believe they're in their drafting process of the plan, and then once the draft, is made public, I believe they're gonna do another round. of public engagement. So
yeah, I'll look it up on the internet.
And to be ready even for public, for maybe comment from the AC on the plan. if you have Something, another day or individual.
Heather, did you have any quick updates or anything?
Let's see, we've got
Yes.
fully going open, so hopefully you've been down there, we'll go down there soon, it's very exciting to have that reopened. You mentioned the Hāmākua draft study, DOT has told us they're not only concerned about the lead contamination down there, but also the things falling from the bridge. But we're still working with Parks and Rec to maybe try to open it and at least exclude, fence off that part and open the rest of it, and, so when the time comes, I may help activating community groups to go down there and do a big cleanup day, if we are able to do that, but we are interested in trying to at least get that open too. Since it looks like the lead remediation will happen until 2028, I think, is when that's targeted, so.
Did they finish the remediation at Kolikoli?
No, they decided, they decided that they're just fencing that off, so if you go down there, you'll see that it's fenced off.
Yeah.
They're gonna start the remediation on that in next year, I think. $36 million.
For
to
the
do that.
bridge?
To do the remediation, no.
Oh,
it's to do
just
the
for
lead
the
remediation,
lead.
it's absurd.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Oh, God.
That was a good thing.
Yeah, obviously, budget cycle is ongoing. You guys mentioned agriculture and invasive species. I did ask in our first round of budget hearings that we put, $250,000 towards invasive species control. Because we are not getting that money from the state and it was approved, so that is now in our budget. Very excited about that. It's gonna go directly out to BISC, so through our research and development department. Working on a couple of CIPs for our district, including the machine room at the Hāmākua pool, hot water for both of the pools, bathrooms. Obviously, the gym in Kapolo is still going forward. I don't know if you guys have you seen the design for that? Pretty damn cool.
For what?
The gym.
Yeah, the new
Buffalo.
gym, yeah.
Wow,
So the consultants did a fabulous job, so
wow.
that's moving forward, and.
Is there any remediation needed there?
No,
No, good.
we're not touching the lower portion, there might be down there, but we're not touching the lower portion in this first phase.
Yeah.
Where's it gonna be? Right next to where it was?
No, it's gonna be where the baseball field is in part, they're shuffling everything around so that they can still put the baseball diamond, they can have the requisite parking. And fit basically 2 court lengths. Size gym with a weight room and
Oh.
like it's not gonna have a long commercial kitchen because the annex already has that, but it's gonna have like a vending place for like the kids teams and, you know, bake sales or whatever.
Concession.
What was the budget? What was the budget for the gym for how long? 10 million.
Yeah. And then, let's see, what else did I want to mention? Oh, short-term vacation rental bill, was heard at the Leeward Planning Committee, the second hearing. They didn't have the full body, but it's gonna come up to us with an unfavorable recommendation from Windward. Leeward has their second hearing on May 22nd. So
This one?
this is the short-term vacation rental bill. And that's partnered with the accessory dwelling unit bill, so, let's see. They're not taking any more testimony on that bill, so, if you wanted to testify, there's an opportunity to on the 22nd, but after their hearings, and it'll come back to council with whatever recommendation they want, so. There are some amendments being proposed, I think so take them seriously, but we need to continue to support. I think it's very fair to those myself, like, but we're getting a lot.
Okay.
Wanted to, just
Thank
bring
you.
up, I just wanted to mention to you, just so you're aware, for Kole, it's open and it's great. And one of the things that I've noticed in the county and particularly with the Parks Department is that they do not follow the county's own landscape code. And so, it's something that I've been kind of, when I was working, because that's what I do for work. Kind of annoyed and because, like there's a need for shade. There's a reason why there's street trees for park, for around the parking lot. And then just in the park, they just put, palm trees, and palm trees don't provide a whole lot of shade. And so, just, I just want to point that out because it's been issue for years. And, I've tried to shake the tree and same thing with just the landscape code in general. I see projects built, put in and installed per code, and then right away, folks take them out.
I think that, landscape is something that I've focused in a lot, so thanks for bringing my attention, but I did notice when I was down there, like, there's no shade down here.
Yeah, And
One of
it's
the
hot.
things that you could strategize to do this group is, at La Pohohoi, we had a tree that was dedicated to celebrate
yeah.
the anniversary, so find some reasons to dedicate some trees down there.
Yeah, but
Still have to put them in.
For me, it's just a quality of life that should be, part and parcel of any kind of public work. And we deserve better. And, I've worked in other jurisdictions. And, it makes a huge difference, in terms of public space and comfort for people on a whole, range of things. So I just wanted
Yeah,
to point that out.
and they should do what everybody else has to do if it's in the code.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So-
And then, I have another announcement, actually surprise good news. And that is, we heard that, the legislature, appropriated or whatever, got $2.1 million for the Hākālau school,
Oh,
lead remediation. And, it's been on, we're waiting and waiting. I don't know how long they're gonna take to actually, contract out again. So we're hoping, we were told by the DOE that perhaps by next year, we might be able to, because once they do that, then everybody's been pretty much on board to turn the lease over to our nonprofit, which we want to actually do like a community learning center so that we can just, have classes that the, community is interested in, so
Right.
that, like farming or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it is to, just be a learning center.
Speaking of the farming, cause you were bringing up the codes and the different trees,
Yeah.
I mean, it is strange, you look around, and here we are in so much rain comes in, all this stuff, but you look outside and there's just the same amount of food as the Sahara Desert. And that could kind of just get in our heads that the fact that it's $200 a bag of groceries and all this stuff, and we gotta start thinking sooner or later, hey, what about the food? What about the food situation?
No.
And like we were saying, for the county and all these different things, and he did mention like with farming and stuff. I mean, we really gotta start thinking about that, right? Would everybody agree with that?
We're on food.
I just want to mention about the
Right.
trees, downtown, it was the same thing, you had all
Yeah.
the beautiful trees that
Yeah.
was on the area in the middle, and then they got them out.
Yeah.
You know, and so you.
They do it purposely too.
Yeah,
And, you know, it's ingrained in the county's, culture. And, you know, something's gotta change. Either community's gotta just push back and say, we want this, because it makes a huge difference. Sidewalks with trees, benches, you know, I know homeless is an issue, but in terms of just quality of life and environmental things, you know, it does lots of
I
things.
just want to mention this because we live in Hāmākua area, and so downtown, we have the same problems, trash everywhere, the streets not clean. So we met with the county and with Neil Acevedo, and it's, he is working with us. So like I say, Suki Wheel works, you know, your voice matters.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good. I think we might have done it by, oh my gosh.
That's because I showed up.
Very good. Thank you.
Got the hammer in your bag.
Keep showing up. Okay, so can we have a motion and a second
Wait,
to?
can I just ask?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Those of you who live in this area, do you guys have anything? Cause there's nobody on our AC from this area, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, cause it goes as far as Hakalau.
Oh, yeah, we missed that
yeah. I
announcement.
mean, not to allow one.
There are 3 vacant seats on this committee. Please go
Yeah.
to the mayor's website and fill out an application.
Yeah, and
Did a free pizza too?
and three.
And
I mean,
then we think about free pizza sometime.
that's why, three of us
There's-
are way past
We have 3
expiration.
vacancies and we have a few holdovers. 3.
The capital HIU.
Did you have a question?
Mine is a one-year
Oh,
term.
come.
We have
Comment?
openings.
I just wanted to add, I'm a bit kill. I moved here back in 2016. I'm originally from the west side of Oahu. Very concerned, you know, citizen, community member. Yeah, literally live 2 blocks away. Yeah, I work closely with BJ. We work with Aina. I also work for a nonprofit called the Naikaiwu, which is based out of Waianae, Oahu. We are doing work here on Mokuokeawe. I'm a custodian at Waikea High School, DOD worker. Tomorrow we're having a tree planting ceremony at Waikea at 8:30. I'm a tree planting coordinator. I see the need for fruit trees everywhere, not just in school, but in our own communities. Like BJ was saying about where's all the fruits? Where's all the fruit trees?
Yeah.
It's essential that we all get together as a community, you know, BJ, like myself, like you folks, community members. We need to really enforce fruit trees everywhere in our parks. Why are we so limited? You know, why are we cutting off the coconut from our trees? You know, why is it a liability? You know, I mean, it's BS. We need to feed our community. It's essential. We need to get on it. And that's why I'm in the education system. And I'm trying to uplift the next generation. It's not all about us anymore. It's about them. So it's up to us to guide them in the right direction. And that's why I'm here to voice my concern, you know, citizens out here. I'm not from here. I just moved here in 2016, but yet, you know, this is my community. This is our Mokuokeawe. We need to start having farmers in the community, county farmers. Exactly. Yeah, everywhere, in every single park, every single community. So I'm right there with BJ and we're gonna push this thing through as far as, yeah, it's getting up as much food trees as we can. CRB is here. It's scary. It's wiping off all the neon on West Oahu. This is serious.
Yeah.
The neon is our, you know, is our Polynesian tree of life. We're losing it. Guam, wiped out. Hawaii is next. We gotta do something about CRB too. And that's why I'm taking action as well. Working with you now, Hāmākua on Oahu, and we're trying to establish some kind of, you know, system to where we can stop the CRB, because this is serious. We're gonna lose not only our new, it's falling in Lauhau, our mic. This is serious stuff. as far as pets go, so we need to jump on these and really enforce and really get the community involved, the county involved, everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, wait,
Another thing I just,
right before, brother, what's your name?
Charles Cavallo,
Mahalo.
and, you know, I mean, they've conditioned us, I guess, over the years that food only grows on a farm, on agriculturally grown land, and you only produce as much as the market, the whole, but we're the market, right? If anything happens, anything shuts down. And you look at these different things, and one that always catches my eye is a 1% increase of food insecurity is a 13% increase in violent crime. And that's just like, what? So what if it's a 50% increase of food insecurity? Is that, you know, how much worse is that? I mean, it's one of those things, you jump in the car, drive down the road, count how many worthless, junk, crappy trees that should be outlawed and illegal, they shouldn't even be able to be here. And how many trees do you count before you see one with food? Yeah, is that an accident? Is that political strategy? What is that? But that's all driving a cost of living. Sooner or later, we're gonna have to separate the food from the money on that side where it's everywhere. The food has to go everywhere. You can't just only go for the market. I mean, we're gonna get put in that position, you know, if 90% of our food comes in, what happens? Only 10% live then? How does it work, you know? But the violent crime will go up, people will start eating each other, right? Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
if you're hungry,
right.
right? So I mean, it's just one of those things, but they got, you know, they got the foot on us, but we can, you know, we got every job, we got 100,000 employees, we got a couple $100 million in your budget, every job, say lawyer, say doctor, say electrician, say road work, and anything. Where's the county farmer in the neighborhood food park? Where's, you know, and where we figure it out, where we have food all the time, you know, some go in the summer, some in the winter. And I mean, that's pretty much our only choice, to subsidize the local farmers. And you have the community garden guys, oh, we don't want anyone controlling our food. Okay, we'll get you grants for your community garden. But at the same time, we need a county farmer. He's for the person who works 8 hours a day, comes home, watches his kid for 4 hours, wakes up the next day, 6 a.m., does it again. That guy can't farm when he gets home. That guy's a soldier in the battle, you know? So it's all stuff we gotta think about. Sooner or later, we're gonna have to separate the food from only producing enough for the market and actually producing some food.
All right, thank you.
Mahalo. Do you guys have
I
anything?
just want to share this, Manapa, how many of you heard of Manapa? They're out in,
Puno.
area. And so what they're doing right now is that we're helping them create some farmland. So we just have the land cleared. And they're gonna raise mamaki tea. And they're gonna work with our next generation, our kids, teach them how to farm. And whatever they farm, they learn from the beginning to the end, and the kids will benefit the harvest. So
Awesome.
hopefully we'll start this project in June. But this is something that can happen.
Yeah.
With our kids.
And if you build it up, well, farming is, you know, farming is the one that should have all the fans and people taking pictures. Those guys are keeping us alive. Those guys are doing everything, right? The dollar goes down and someone says, oh, buy gold. You can, oh, what are you gonna do with it? You know, so, I mean, it's just one of those things to think about.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a big thing. That's a great thing. Thank you.
What is
Thank
it,
you.
what, it's air, we say, what's the most important, air, right? You can only go so long without it, and water, and then food, air from the earth, water from the well, food from the tree, the tree grows itself, you know, it's for everybody, that stuff, that's from God. You know, that's for all of us. And we gotta put it down.
You were a little late to the conversation, we did talk a little bit about. some
Oh, that's
of the
awesome.
strategies that we've actually put in place for the tax office, but we haven't really done.
Awesome.
About it, because we need to sustain it.
Okay.
We check about it, we can actually.
County farmer, is that?
So from.
Because we're always talking about, look at the program. Farm, create incentives for our next generation of people that want to farm, but have no way. So, you know, we can maybe some kind of loan subsidy, but farm to own. So we can teach the next generation One for today, for our people.
Put them on a pedestal, all the pictures, they would meet you. Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
You know?
I make a
Yeah,
motion.
question for- You know, for, you guys, the county is sponsoring the HCPO, right, in September?
Yes,
Are we invited?
great question. Let me
what is it?
take that back.
HCPO?
What's the
It's the planning conference.
statewide?
Annually, this year it's gonna be,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
And a state planning conference.
yeah. Yeah, let me check in about that and see.
Is it here?
It is,
Yes, it's gonna be here.
Yeah, because, MaxAC is, I need to go for MaxAC because MaxAC is gonna propose a symposium about outreach to agencies.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
this is,
that'll be-
whether we approve or not.
Okay, we're gonna-
Maybe, you know, it'll be open to this group here.
We get one more comment.
So for Hāmākua, I just want to say we have a really good, community meeting once a month, with a really active committee. Our next one is May next. So I invite, if you want to see what's going on in our community and our concerns, I'd invite you to come and see. We definitely have more members attending from our community than you have. And we're just a little city.
Where's that at?
Here,
Right here. Okay.
May 19th.
3 o'clock,
What time?
3 o'clock.
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn.
We have a
Second.
Oh, okay, we have, no, we tried. Motion and a second, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
6:54.
Woo!
Yeah.
Good work. Good work. Good work, Kevin.